Hello, so for those of you who don't know, basically everyone on the internet, my name is alyssatkawaii, and in today's video, I'm going to be making a lot of sugar cookies. This video happens over the course of 3 days, I believe. Yeah. Recently, Buzzfeed Tasty came out with a sugar cookie recipe, and they claim to be the best sugar cookies that you will ever try. These sugar cookies had 3 secret ingredients, and they take a long time to make because there's a huge refrigeration process as well as rolling them out and making the dough. I wanted to compare them to like a Betty Crocker sugar cookie mix and see if the effort is really worth it. So that's what I'll be doing in this video, and so let's get into it. I have the Betty Crocker sugar cookie mix right here, and it looks like all we need for the cutout cookies are 3 tablespoons of flour, a stick of butter, and 1 egg. So I'm gonna be making those, and then I'll check up on you when they're done out of the oven. Alright, so that's all my ingredients for the Betty Crocker sugar cookies. Alright, so here's my dough. The dough doesn't taste like anything too crazy. It pretty much tastes like the cookie dough of my childhood. Nothing really too wild going on, but you know, malleable. Okay, so now we're gonna flour my surface so that we can get ready to cut out the cookies to make Christmas cookies. Alright, so I have my Betty Crocker cookies. Now, as you can see, they didn't really retain their shape much. They're super buttery because you had to melt like a whole stick of butter, and because it's melted, it has a very sort of greasy consistency, which I think will help keep the cookie from drying out. However, I feel like because of that, it was really hard to get the cookies out from under your floured surface, so the shape kind of fell apart, and the directions don't say anything about refrigerating the dough before putting it into the oven, so I have a feeling that these are gonna puff out really big and not retain their shape. But I don't know, we'll see. It says bake for about 5 to 7 minutes, so I'm gonna pop them in the oven right now. Alright, so I just pulled them out of the oven. As you can see, they definitely like poofed out quite a bit. They retained their shape pretty well. I think the only part that they didn't retain their shape was when I was pulling them off of my floured surface, because even though they were pretty thin, they were still really buttery, and they just kind of like completely wilted under pressure, just like me. But yeah, so they puffed out. Now I'm just gonna let them cool, and then yeah, we can taste them. Hey guys, so you probably noticed that I'm wearing a different shirt. It's Charlie Brown, and this is because I'm filming this on the next day. So I made my sugar cookies yesterday, my Betty Crocker sugar cookies, and they ended up turning out looking like this. I forgot to show you yesterday that I ate it, and this is because I was throwing a Christmas party at my apartment and it got really hectic. I was actually planning to make the Buzzfeed Tasty sugar cookies for my party, but I just ran out of time because I was cooking a bunch of other things. I made teriyaki chicken, I made salmon, mashed potatoes, and then I also made brownies and sugar cookies and rice. So it was a lot of work and a lot of cleaning, and I also had work yesterday, so I was kind of overwhelmed, and it just completely slipped my mind. So for the Betty Crocker sugar cookie, right out of the oven, they taste pretty good. They're pretty buttery, but they are definitely more like one note flavor. They all just taste the same, and you kind of get a little tired tasting the same exact thing if you're gonna eat a bunch of sugar cookies. And you kind of also disguise the flavor by usually covering them up with frosting, which I decided to use the Betty Crocker vanilla frosting, and I mean, they're alright. They're a good sugar cookie. I don't really know what else to say about that, but the one I'm most excited for is trying the Buzzfeed Tasty's sugar cookie. This is because it included a few different ingredients that I haven't really used in the sugar cookie making process, such as cream cheese, almond extract, and cream of tartar, and I wanted to see how it turned out and if it was any different and if I need to be changing my sugar cookie making process. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm filming it the day after and trying it after, so that we can compare them. Now, the things I noticed right off the bat is that in this sugar cookie recipe, they really specify time-wise. They really specify some things time-wise. So these cookies are gonna take a lot longer to make. Butter is supposed to be softened, so take it out of the refrigerator for at least an hour before you start cooking. Plus, the sugar cookies, once you cut them out, they're gonna rest in the fridge for about 2 hours. So it's really like an arduous process to get these sugar cookies done, but I want to see if the effort is really worth it. All right, we have our ingredients to cream together. Secret ingredient number 1, cream cheese. I mean, haven't even added in the flour and everything else on top of it, and I can tell that there's gonna be a huge difference in batter because the cream cheese is gonna add like a slight little tartness to it, as well as because it's not melted butter, it's softened butter, it definitely tones down like just the buttering flavor, so the cookies don't taste like just like pure butter, and we can focus on the other flavors that are incorporated as well. So that's pretty neat. If you couldn't see from my blurry finger point, the second secret ingredient, try saying that 3 times fast. Second secret ingredient is in there, and it's the almond extract. Now, I didn't know until I just opened the bottle that it's clear. I guess I've had so much practice with vanilla that I just assumed it would be dark, but I don't know. Anyways, now you may be thinking like, I'm kind of biased because I'm filming a bunch more of this process instead of the Betty Crocker, but that's just because this seems to have a lot more steps than the Betty Crocker sugar cookie mix, as well as I really don't, like, I'm curious as to how this turns out, but I don't really want this to win, because then that just means if I'm going to be making sugar cookies and I use like a box mix, then I just know that something better is out there, and it's not this, and it's going to take a lot more work. So yeah, so not biased, or at least try not to be. Okay, so you can't really see it because it's covered underneath all this flour, but our third secret ingredient is in the bowl, and that would be cream of tartar. Now, I guess this isn't really supposed to do anything to the flavor, but instead what it's gonna do is gonna prevent the cookies from browning, so they stay that nice sort of uniform color all around. Alright, so here's the final cookie dough. Now this cookie dough is really sticky, so I'm gonna have to use a lot of flour to roll it out. But I tried the cookie dough, and it really has that very distinct almond flavor, which is kind of strong. And so I'm not entirely too sure about this cookie, just because the almond flavor is very overwhelming. But for now, this batter is not a batter that you would like continually stuff your face down like chocolate chip cookie dough batter. This is a batter that you kind of go, okay. I'm just going to flour my work surface and roll it out into a flat disc and put it in the fridge for about 2 hours, and I'll check in with you later. I had my sugar cookies in the fridge overnight. This is what they ended up looking like. Again, I think they were able to retain their shape. Little confession, so I had half of it in a bowl and half of it in another bowl, and I didn't roll it out into the flat disc like they talked about in the article / video, but I think that this turned out fine. Obviously one turned out a little bit better than the other. As you can see, this batch over here rolled out a lot smoother than this batch, but I think it's okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them in the fridge so that they can retain their shape. They need to stay in the fridge for at least 20 minutes, and then I'm going to put then I'm going to put them in the oven and bake them and see how they turn out. Overall, I think they turned out pretty good. The dough is still really sticky, so I had to use a lot of flour to roll them out, and definitely keep a lot of flour on hand for this recipe because I had a brand new bag before this and I'm almost completely out. Okay, so these are the cookies. I just got them out of the oven. It said to take them out when they're just barely starting to brown, and I baked them for about 13-14 minutes when they said to bake them for 10 to 12, so I think they're done. So I'm gonna wait for them to cool, and then I'm gonna try them without any frosting, because that's how I tried the other sugar cookies, just so I can get an even playing field to see how they compare. Now, I'll probably be eating these with icing later on, but I just feel like icing is gonna cover up like the true taste of the cookie, so I felt like it was more fair to try the cookies without any icing. The cookies have cooled down quite a bit, and I'm gonna try them. As you can see, they actually kept their shape pretty well. Considering all that time that they spent in the fridge, I would really hope so. So I think that's a real plus here, because even though it took a while, I think the shape came out really good. Now to try them, that's a pretty good sugar cookie. Definitely a lot softer than the Betty Crocker cookies, I'll give them that. And I think just based on the texture of the cookie, I believe that it will have a pretty good keepability, so it'll remain this texture for a while. Now, When I was making my cookies, I didn't roll them out very thin to a 1/4 inch, and I actually preferred it this way. It's a little bit thicker and it provides a much more pillowy texture. I think the cream cheese was a good bonus because it added a little bit of like tartness to all that butter and sugar to cut through, so it definitely doesn't taste like I'm just eating a pack of butter like some of the Betty Crocker sugar cookies did. The almond flavoring, I was a little worried because the almond extract, when I was eating the batter, it pretty much overpowered the whole flavor. That effect on the cookies, it just provides a little bit of depth. I think these sugar cookies will be good with frosting, which I will do later on. And I think these were great cookies. Overall, I think it's a little bit more work, especially because you have to timestamp them, so it takes a lot more time overall to make the cookies. I think I'll be definitely making them in the future. However, I think for most of my functions, if I need a lot of cookies or I just need some quick sugar cookies, I will be making the Betty Crocker ones. So I think that's the end of my review. Overall, these are great, and I think these were great, and if you want to try out a new sugar cookie recipe, then definitely go for it. I think the crema tartar was the best addition to the sugar cookie because of the fact that these sugar cookies didn't really brown. They stayed their perfect sort of yellowy, pillowy, golden color, and I really like that because it makes the cookie more uniform for when it's time for frosting or just eating them plain how it is. So I hope you enjoyed my review. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!